Sanibonani bafethu sanamukela futhi kolunye uhlelo lo what keeps you going with them Charlies mangabe umusha ungakhohlwa ukulike, subscribe and share. Namhlanje siphethe international guest ke. Saqala kuba ne guest ebuya from another province. Travel special nje ukuthi izonibona nje and tell story sabo to you guys. Namhlanje sino Bhekile Nkosi, Mr. Nkosi sakwamukela ku show yethu.
Oh wow, what an introduction. Ngiyabonga kakhulu siyabingelela abalaleli and yeah.
Siyabonga. Mhlawumbe ngenze kahlobene ngoba ugogo zala umama nawe akaNkosi. Kodwa umuntu ubuye ke eSwatini ke. Angazi ke ukuthi nani
nathi sihlabuka khona vele eSwatini
ngoba
yes ngokwenzeka ukuthi sihlobe
madoda yayibona ke lo mhlaba mncane
umhlaba mncane kakhulu
so abantu abangakwazi uBhekile ubani nje
uBhekile Nkosi I was born in Guatemala so many years ago 1973 or so Guatemala ngikhulele khona vele Thema and born to Nomgqibelo Christina Mahlangu and Johannes Nkosi who unfortunately died in 1980 so sikhulisa uma sikhulisa ugogo no anto mamkhulu omalume and all that sikhula nje ifamily enkulu nje na nabanye abantu mabakhuluma bathi grocery nje ngoba sibaningi yeah, but a wonderful family and a loving family. So ngikhulele Tornado kwaThema eMafusini 14. So that is home. So that is where I grew up here.
Okay. Yes. So ngifuna ukwazi ukuthi njengoba usho ukuthi ule kuboma 70s, right?
Yes.
And more than now manje sekuwest but I like to believe ngenkazi bekuwest ukuthi ube namaphupho beyond la khona.
Yes.
So kufika kanjani ukuthi uzobe nalelo phupho lokuthi even beyond matric mina ngifuna kuba uthisha mina ngifuna kuba yilokho ngifuna kuba yifika ngifuna kuba something nje ku community
kula ekhuleni ngithi manje you aspire to greater things usesemncane well from a very early age esikoleni I was part of a debating committee participated go courses and what but I was also part of an organization as Tornado which was founded by Lindi Dlamini. Lindi Dlamini is actually the daughter to the late first deputy president Ekosatu Chris Dlamini. So she then started an organization, a Progress Youth Cultural Group, where we would go and sicule sigide senzeni so and then growing up then you get sensitized around what is happening in your communities and the treatments abantu and whatever so you would want to also contribute you'd also want to be part of the solution more than being part of the problem so uma njengoba ngisho besikhulisa uma worked kama Konochi and they called it kama Konochi but it was INJ at the time and manje say I believe bayibiza ukuthi McCain so and ukukhula kwethu I realized ukuthi uma ebesebenza emafrijini impilo yakhe yonke afaka amaboots afake ama overall ahamba yosebenza and all that and then I then realized ukuthi you know what the least I can do is to at least go to school and then so that I'm able to better the conditions zale salgas and all that so and now realizing ukuthi usebenza kama Kono she's not earning much so I couldn't afford universities and what. So when we then got indication ukuthi they are accepting applications at Eastern College of Education at Thema, I then decided to send in mine and you won't believe this. There's a gentleman beyahlala ngasekhaya 17 eMafusini uMoses Makudulela uPutomdala nje wethu. So 17 eMafusini bekufana nasekhaya nje mangabe ngatholi isinto ekhaya ngizosithole kwi-bread tin 17. So he had a typewriter ebekathanda ukungiboleka yona hayi ngahlala ku typewriter nga type letter ngoba college phela baya accept letter handwriting type letter and I then sent it through. And fortunately, I got accepted. So I then started Eastern College in 1996 doing a secondary teacher's diploma, humanities. So that's the long and the short of it. But the motivation behind was to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Alright. So now boyifake induku. Phela thina singena nje emalokishini ayize abuya moye high school futhi ku West kuthiwa nempama baba iyakhala ke lapho.
Kuphi as a teacher or
esikoleni nje or student.
Esikoleni
before nje iqina imithetho ukuthi ingane iphathwe kanjani.
Thina esikoleni nje futhi I went to Lefaifa. And when I started, principal wakhona bekuminer Matsinye, and then kwasekuba Mr. Tsoteti and Umsuwe, we called him Umsuwe. And Mr. Matsinye beka straight man. Straight yakhumula sasiqhashe eRakwena kwesinye isikolo lezansi abathi iThembeni and saqhashe khona beka megate asikhombe ngenduku athi sizogijima ukusuka la phezulu wasepulong sigijime uzuyofika esikoleni and all that, but it was fun. Fun. Basikhulisile today we siyamadoda and we here because of imfundiso zabo and all that. So that's that.
So I'll take you through experience yakho now yokuba teacher ukuthi yini boy enjoya mawusaqala yini lebo uyithanda yini namhlambe bokuthi okay mase ngifikile naku mina ngifuna ukushintsha ukuthi ngishiye nje ama footsteps or footprint yami nje. So ngifuna nje usithathe through iexperience yakho ke mawusaqala as a teacher ukuthi yini boyithanda ngomsebenzi wakho yini bowufuna ukuyishintsha mhlambe ku system othe wena mawusese student ongazange wayithanda wathi mina I'll do better la.
Well, I completed 198 a college and unfortunately when I then completed ubaba omkhulu in Davidton died. Ubaba uMpele he died, and then umamkhulu wami omdala kuboma was now left alone. So my cousin brother Musoli Mabena then asked me ukuthi ucela ngiyohlala nomamkhulu eDavidton besihlala yedwa. I then went through to Davidton and uma ngifika khona ngase ngihlala naye ke. So there's a former lecturer of mine Miss Polly de Roland Phillips, and ebeka ngifundisa English at college. So we were now in contact, and so I then gave her a call and she told me ukuthi sekase Davidton College. Davidton College it was now converted to Eastern School of Arts. So she had been seconded to Eastern School of Arts with Bhekile Nkosi, and she then said, Davidton College is just a walk away from here. I then walked through to see her. When I got there, and she then said to me as we were discussing at hey man, and short nango teacher as when I saw seventh, no, I'm not working. Would you be interested in volunteering to assist? And I'd be happy to do that. She then introduced me to the caretaker principal, Mr. Sonti, Bhekile Sonti. So Bhekile Sonti, we then had a discussion around that, and he then said, if you are available to come help, please come through. And then that is where I started working. I started as a volunteer. I worked for around 3 months or so. Now, this is now 1999. 1999, there's an organization that we're a member of, and a few others of my friend here in the Youth Christian Movement. So we'd organize revivals in different places. So this one time, Nego Revival, or before we could go to Bloemfontein, in September of 1999, I get a call from Usara Phala. Usara Phala is the deputy principal some school at the time at WJ Mpengesi in Davidton. She says to me, I've been asked by Mr. Sonti to call you and so that you can come and assist Eskoleni. Mr. Sonti had apparently gone through for an operation. So there is the Mr. Sonti that was a caretaker.
Sure.
And so I then went through and took over some of the classes, Zaga Sarapala and whatever. And then, long story short, the following year, then in January, Mr. Sonti calls me back to come and work at WJ Mpengesi Primary School. So excited, so energetic, go through. Now, to come through to the question you asked, more than anything, what I really wanted to see, and then it's to see the black child believing in themselves, believing that more than anything, they're worth it, they're worth the trouble, you know. And siphila kwesinye isikhathi manje where you see a whole lot of young people labanye sebabhema inyawo bayenzani and it would seem that their lives are over, but umuntu kaThixo, umuntu kaNkulunkulu. And kunomngane wethu and uBishop Twala, who usually says amalanga angcono kunezibusiso. So for the fact that uNkulunkulu usagcinile for the next day ukuthi yini onakho yini ongenakho mhlamba kubaleka ngakakhulu kubalekile ukuthi usaphila, and for as long as usaphila usho ukuthi kusekhona okusengenzeka. So more than anything, I would want to see the black child believing ukuthi, you know what, they are worth the trouble, you know. So that is one of the motivation that took me to teaching, to say, you know what, like I said earlier on, I want to be part of the solution. I want to be able to contribute to the black child's life, you know. I'm not racist or anything, but all the other races, they are well off. But our kids, they are not doing so well. So it becomes important, therefore, that we send out a message that says, you are worth the trouble. Believe in yourselves, go out there, we are behind you all the way. So that's basically it, yes.
So mongena having leo vision onayo nalo gqozo nalo akubi inkinga ngoba it's one thing masokhula somdala so nama friends nawo angabo teacher sekuconfirmeka le dorobo ukhulu uzizwa ukuthi kumabhuku konje ibizwa ngani indawo yabo teacher
ama staff room
kuyekushiya nezinto zabantu lapho sifake ukuthi umuntu angayisamweke ecareer yakhe bambona ukuthi lona ufuna ukutshintsha system lo ufuna ukuthi is really interested einganeni understand akafani ukuthi khona abathishera abafika nje iperiod iphele nje angenankinga umunye usifikela Monday ubudlile usaphathe ibhabhalaza but wena mawufika bonke awutholanga resistance ngokuthi ube lo muntu owuye nje.
No, not necessarily. I worked with some of the most wonderful people. Some of the most wonderful people. I mean, well, nazo, they are like any other family. I mean, they'd be your baked potatoes and whatever. But like I say, I worked with some of the most wonderful people. I worked with a friend of mine who's late now, Ubandile Boya, and the daughter to Tom Slumko Boya, who was the first mayor as a Davidson. And I worked with her. Well, a teacher remembers. Amagama futhi awakhohlwa njengothisha. I mean, I have my former teacher who just died a few weeks or so ago. Umema Maposa ekhaya because sonke ngamagama nebong. Sonke. Sifundiswe uye ubhuti wami omdala beyathi yewena Glenfield Mahlangu woza la siswami wena Gloria come here, and you know what, she knew us by names and surnames. So I think it's a characteristic a teacher. I mean, a teacher never forgets names and all that. Yeah, so Ubandile Boya, she was one of those. I worked with Abu Kosi Dlamini, I worked with Abu Bongi Matulwe, and Kosana Masilela, and all that wonderful people. Unokzola, Angambulala Futmangas, Guti Kamalaka Ngilmenshinang, a wonderful woman who is still a very good friend of mine, Unokzola Vutela. And so Kulumanga, must be Kulumangendaga and all that. But then I worked with those people. Novo Isile Sonti, my principal, who believed in me, and became part. And I guess when you become a teacher and umsebenzi wakho bokuye eclassini nje ukufundisa abantwana bese thatha kwama sakho uyaphuma uyahamba mhlambe iba yinkinga le nto leyo, but when when you engage yourself, when you involve yourself in what is happening in the school. Now when I got there, I became part of a whole lot of organizations. At the time, which was a cultural organization that I was part of. There was Jen Sekletsema that I was part of, and a whole lot of others. I was also part of a library committee, which was led by Unokzola Vutela Loyenkulumangana.
Yeah.
Who was the librarian there. And so we would then organize Amamashes, would organize a readathon week, and there was ETA, drop everything and read, where I was in the mix of things. And maybe because of that, I wasn't quite aware of who is scheming against who. Maybe I wasn't quite aware of anything like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Good. So I see that fateful event, right? Le kwenza ubhala incwadi. Iqala kuphi because ngibona umuntu dedicated, umuntu serious emphakathini ukuthi then iqala kuphi kuze kuvuke le into leyivukayo or le event yenzakalayo. And unangakhi in terms of maybe usibeke na kuye mayenzeka and iminyaka yakho sithola ukuthi now unangakhi.
Yeah, I think I was around 26 years or so. This is now 2002. This is now 2002. I wrote about it lapha encwadini ngithi I read a book and ebeyikhuluma ngoKhale Mazungu. And uKhale Mazungu, who was told ukuthi impilo is like a magic carpet that takes you through the gorges and the hills and whatever. And then it then says at the end, but wherever or whatever the end, men must live. Whatever the end, men must live. Now, and there's a song by Beyonce, We're Fighting Temptation. I used to go to bed on top of the world, but today the world is on top of me. Sure. So that day on the, I think it was the 22nd of June 2002, I felt the world on top of me. I woke up like any other day, and then ngakusasa ikolo bezivalwa. So when we then had a short meeting, after which nyaphuma nge office lethu, and then I get called by my principal. The principal when I big, he called me big. Maningenda bezingekho mnandi maningithi yini manje menir athi bekunamaphoyisa la and athi afuna wena. There's apparently a parent who opened a case against you to rape umntwanakhe. Nithi mina meneri athi yes, and bebathi bazokubopha, so ngase ngibacela ukuthi to avoid a scene ithi ngilethe police station. Nithi mina kodwa meneri mina rape umntwanakhe. I had never done anything like that. So he then says, okay, no, thatha isikhwama sakho ngikhambisa. Go through to eThwathwa police station, get there, must figure introduce the police, say, okay, now Mahlangu. And as I walk in there, I then noticed some kid that I used to teach. Now Mara, could that be her? And I found that that was actually her. I taught her grade 7 the previous year. This is now 2001. This is now 2002. She's apparently reporting the case. She couldn't report the case because mina ngamthembisa ukuthi ngizombulala ngizomdubula ngesibhamu sami angazi ngisithatha mfowami mtshana. And all those things. So
so 2008 akasese student sakho. 2002 akasese student.
2002 akasese student.
Okay.
So uthi this happened the
previous
year.
Okay,
yeah. So ngiboshweke ngiyolala ejele for the first time in my life. Ngiyolala kuma holding cells in Davidton.
So I xoxwa kwenziwa next nje bavele.
Angithi manje and sengiboshiwe kumele apply bail.
Okay.
And kuzosethwa ilanga lokuthi uyokhulunyana nani. So
asisengikhulumela ukuthi wena mawufika statement sakha sabalekanga manjalo.
You won't believe what happened because kahle uma ngithathwa ngimixe Davidton ane ngavalelwa and they never really charged me. And I think they only charged me on a Sunday. And this was now a Thursday. Ngiboshwa on a Thursday. They only charged me on a Sunday. Monday saphuma saye court. I didn't want to bother myself with all those technicalities and whatever. All I wanted was to go through to court and say I didn't do it. Inkantolo uma ngabe nobufakazi iprove uma ngabe nganabo and whatever ngambe ngekhaya. That's all I wanted. So then sleep emaselini Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This is my first time. Around those time, can you imagine what's happening in my mind? So Monday morning, but before we could go there, this policeman mangfika on Thursday, and then he then asked me, "Uthi ubani wena ngithi mina ngifundisa eWJ Mpengesi primary." Athi, "Oh, wow, umntana mufunda lapho." He then says to me, "Une lawyer?" Ngithi mina no, anginayo, but there's a certain Benindaba who represented a friend of mine, Ulinda Nyamagazi, in a certain case. Athi, "You know what? I have his number." Woza simfonele. We called him. He came later on, and then we finalized ama details we ukuthi si bhatalana kanjani and whatever. Then Monday I went through to court ePinoni, and a court masifika bathi umntwana akekho usaye kudokotela, umntwana lo usaye kudokotela and whatever. I remind the case for the following day. Makuphela at the end of it all, sangene venini saqonda eModapi prison. The only time I've been to a Modapi prison, sasambisa abantwana kuyi-readathon week and whatever. That was the only time. Never imagined I could go back as a prisoner.
Sure.
And go through to Modapi prison and slept over on a Monday, Tuesday again. Because Tuesday is at Masfika Court, but investigating office ayikho, and we then came on Wednesday. On Wednesday, the magistrate gave me bail. Ngahamba ngaye ekhaya and mangifika ekhaya and ikole bese ivaliwa ngithi.
Yeah.
So mangifika ekhaya, then stayed for the holidays. When schools reopened, ngabuyela emsebenzini.
So makwenza yonke lokho ukhona umuntu ku family yakho omtshelayo but yonke
what had happened was when ngale langa lelaya ngiya eThwathwa police station ngacela uNokzola futhi kuthe ngathi ngicela fonela umamkhulu wami eThema nafonela fonele friend of mine uZama wase Newcastle, afonela uLinda, another friend of mine, and then so they then came. I remember my aunt Umamulapo, the late, and her late husband, Babu Mulapo, they came through to see me at Davidton police station. And then, but my family has been there forever. They've been there, they've supported me every step of the way, you know. So that's that. And so, ngilibele ngathenda.
wathenda ngaphandle nje.
Yeah, ngaphandle. And ngiyemsebenzini ngelanga engathenda ngalo ngiyathende bese ngiyabuya until the 17th of September. What had happened was I had a date for 16th of September 2002. So we then went to court and they called our witnesses and whatever. So a case was ahead. Mntwana wakhuluma noma wakhe, wakhuluma ne-social worker. Kwakhuluma ne-social worker, umunye umama nje ngimusha igama. Khona lapha encwadini. So and then before the case could end, lawyer yami ithi, because as one of the questions that they asked, they asked ukuthi because umntwana uthi mina ngamgcina lapho, it happened in the library, ngamgcina lapho.
Okay, maybe before fika lapho istory somntwana sithini sona mhlambe?
Sithi story somntwana, i-librarian sengisho namagama wabantu.
Yeah.
A librarian had left them with the keys to a library which batlin. And a librarian yahamba yayakwayo. So mina I came in and found her there. And then raped her repeatedly. Ngam release ngabo 4.
Sure.
So ikhoti yangibuza ukuthi abantwana baya clean library mina only got there in 2002 and ukufika kwami bekhona umama omdala nje oclean library bekumzalo abantwana beka clean library. And then my argument again to the court is a librarian, I don't think she would have ever left ikhiye nabantwana ahamba yekwakhe.
Yeah.
For a simple reason, there was well, it wasn't a state-of-the-art library and whatever, but the library, it was well-resourced. It had computers, it had,
Sure.
expensive books and all that, it had projectors and what. I mean, ucabanga uthisha ushisikia nomntwana waka grade 7 ahamba yekwakhe and angakhiyanga a library with such expensive equipment.
Yeah.
So knowing Nogzola, having worked with her, I didn't think she would ever do something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was my argument. And then they asked me, Uti, on that particular day, when did I knock off? I told them that I knocked off at 3:15. It's called 3:15. But how did you know? When you gave me bail, ngahamba ngayofuna time book ya last year ngicheck ukuthi nginokho feni. Yeah, so that's that.
Sure.
So that was that. And then my lawyer then decides, but you know what, ukuze we cement this whole thing, and let's get a time book ya 2001. Bafonile esikoleni but bacela balethe time book, and some old men ebesebenza naye at the time, Babu Msibi, brings a time book. He's since passed on, may his soul rest in peace. Unfortunately, Babu Msibi comes with the time book yaka 2002, but the court ifuneka 2001. They then say, okay, Stella principal, Stella Sleteli time book yaka 2001. Principal comes through, and then when he comes through, they then say, can we ask you a few questions? Of principal atai bengazela ngizophendula imibuzo la.
Yeah.
Prosecutor ethi sicela ukubuza imibuzo noma siyabopha. I think it was something to that effect. He then ended up agreeing. So when he goes up, and then they then ask him ukuthi abantwana bayayiclean library na. The principal says there was a time where abantwana bebaklina no mem votela library. Kodwa manje khona umzali ocleanayo. Ikhothi ibamba ukuthi abantwana. And they then ask him ukuthi, because they had asked me ukuthi time book, can I access it after hours? Give me na no, it's not possible to access the time book after hours because admin block mangabe sebashayisile basuke sebakhile and bayikhiyele ngaphakathi. So they ask the principal the same question, can you access a time book after hours? The principal said, yes, I can. Now, a lawyer Lami didn't want to question him because we witness here to the principal. But it technicality says, the principal, magaphuma udlula kuyi time book. Ngisho office lakhe liphakathi. Udlula kuyi time book. Mina ngaphandle.
When you can't.
Mina I can't access it, but yena he can access it. Court yathi statement sami siyashayisana nesaka principal kusho ukuthi mina nginamanga and then yathi guilty. Yathi you're going to have to go and uyohlala eModabi prison and you would have to go to high court for sentencing.
My daughter.
Couldn't believe it. My mother was in tears. My friends could not believe what was happening. So went back to Modabi prison second time around. Only this time around went in there for 8 months.
Sure. Like in your head kwenzakalani mabaqeda nje ukuthi
I couldn't believe it. You know, you get to a point where you then understand Job umayethi thu uNkulunkulu besiyafa.
Yeah.
You know, a whole lot of things are happening. You're saying kodwa Thixo mangilahlwa uwe kodwa uthi khona kodwa lento. And so I was taken back to Motapi prison, and for the first few days in Motapi, my life was hell. It was just hell. It consisted of crying, asking God, but why? Why? I mean, I've been a Christian all my life, and they have been part of Heavenly Youth, and Nasesontweni was working with committee Labantabasha and all that. And I'm saying, but why would this happen to me and all that? And I then stayed. There's a chapter in the book there from a teacher to a cleaner. And my master be hleli lana ejele. And now ufunda ama tricks ukuthi ukuthi nokuthi. My friends supported me, my family supported me.
Yeah.
Now there was a corridor lapha eMotapi prison ebinama public phones. Kumula lawo Telkom green and whatever. So I would then make calls from there. And now from time to time, a time unane and ekhaya mabeza nabangani mabeza, they would bring me a phone card, phone card. And so from all the places ebengithanda ukuhlala kuzo in prison, ayikho edlula ukuya ku visit. Mangabe ngine visit kunabantu abezile abazongibona, and my family came in numbers, my friends came in numbers, and ukuhlala lapha kuma public phones, because lapha I would get to buzz some of my friends, bogugulethu Xaba, uMthosi Zwane, Khosi Masemula and all that, and then they would then phone back, you know, so bengibele ngibabhaza and all that. So what I then did, I formed part of Lamachita Cleaner. Yabo abaklinayo ekseni mawangena amaphoyisa azosibala yasibala maqeda ukusibala sengiphethe umshanelo ngime eminyango lapha phuma nibakhipha thina qala lapha before laba abanye bazophuma phume ngambe ngiyoshanela ngiyokoropa lapha ngiyomopha lapha ngazi ngishanela la kulama corridors wamafoni sengibabhazile ngiyazi bazofona shanela khona ngikoropa khona and all that. So this one time while I was busy cleaning there, this guy ebesina sailing, he looks at me and says, from a teacher to a cleaner. That hit hard.
Sure.
That hit hard. That statement right there just spelled out, you know, the downward spiraling of my life. But I hung in there. It wasn't quite easy. It was a little difficult. I mean, and I think first and foremost because abantu abahlele ejele uyakhululeka umuntu ohlele ejele ngenxa yesono sakhe ngenxa yento ayenzile.
Yeah.
Awazi ukukhululeka ejele, uhlale ejele for into ongayenzanga. Nambe ngiyokhululeka ukube bekuyinto engiyenzile manje ngiyenzanga. Then I then stayed here 8 months, and then this one time get called to a Pinoni. They then say your case is going to be heard at Delmas High Court May 12 May 2003. Now this is now what about October and that actually says we should none of night date not go to your daily Christmas your daily New Year's Eve hey, you won't believe what happened. So there's that ngabe kumoya phansi ngathi hayi akunankinga as long as ngizolithola ilanga lami. And so ngayi 12 zaka May then went out ngaye court mangifika high court ijaji ebeli presider. I had now acquired the services of a new advocate, Advocate Hank Hoffman, and who actually charged me 5,000 per session.
Sure.
I didn't have to. I should mention that, but then that is what he charged. I didn't have money. I wasn't working.
So mongo through konke lokho nesikolo sabayivalile nje indaba yakho isalary
Oh yeah, maybe most importantly ne kule 8 months engihleli cabanga ngihlele ejele. This one time bayangibiza igama lami Bhek Mahlangu abithe igama lami phela lelo bangifune admin block masiye admin block. I found these two gentlemen ngoba ngisebenza ka education ithi ngawasha amagama wabo yabona bazoze bangixosha.
Yeah.
I found these gentlemen, two gentlemen who were representing the Gauteng Department of Education that come to convene a disciplinary hearing against me right in prison, as if I didn't have enough troubles already.
Sure.
Bazo conduct a disciplinary hearing, and I had spoken to my advocate uHenk wathi bathumelele incwadi ukuthi rather they convene a disciplinary hearing after my case is completed. So when they come through, ngithi mina kubo, hey, you know what, I spoke to my advocate and he said he sent you a letter, yabo. And so akekho umuntu ozongimela, yabo. And there was a gentleman ebengisebenza naye uHenry wakhoza umayor, we called him mayor, and bengimcela ukuthi azongirepresenta on the behalf of ama union.
Yeah.
Namagama ngiyakhumbula. So it was myself no Mener Khoza yabona.
Yeah.
So sithi masivumelana sithi thina we not well vested with legal terms and all that. Asikwazi ukuthi ayiqhubeke disciplinary hearing. We need somebody at least to have the know-how and all that. But but we'll set a date for another day.
Yeah.
And then this one time clearly, and then they come back. I think it was January 2003. They come back and ngithi mina iloya lami lithi ngithumelele incwadi bathi ayasitholanga. Ngithi yazi izongiphathisa ekhanda leniqhubekana. They then say bank charger misconduct in that I was found guilty in a court of law.
Sure.
Now, how do you plead against that? Because the mere reason you're putting Semodab is because I was found guilty in a court of law. And then they dismissed me from the services of the department.
Just like that.
So, just like that. And a few days later, I got a letter confirming the dismissal. Now, can you imagine your life is hanging in the balance? You are accused of something ongayenzanga and suqoshiwe nasemsebenzini usasebenzi soxakekile nani. And my aunt umamine udadewabo ma olanyoma went through to Newcastle head office yethu, and umfundisi wethu omkhulu sewashona manje, he died in 2018. Dr. SM Ntombela was like a father to me. That man ungikhulisile in the faith and nasenyameni.
Yeah.
So I had spoken to him over the phone, noma mkhulu wayokhuluma naye umtshela ngecase yami. This one day he drove from Newcastle ahamba nendodana yakhe endala sekumongameli webandla manje uSipho Ntombela. And they came through bazongibona eModabi prison. Unfortunately, they couldn't come in because beseba late. Wasuyadlula aya kwi-lawyer lami uHenk Hoffman and paid him the 5,000 because he knew I didn't have money.
Sure.
Badala. And so we went to court then, no Henk Hoffman. Ijaji lathi malifika lathi, for a case like this, I'm going to need the magistrate yaseBinoni so that he comes and explains ukuthi uthola unecala ngaliphi. Okay, does he have medical evidence that links you to the child? What does imakathi guilty uthi guilty ngaliphi?
Sure.
So I'm going to have to request him to come and present his whatever testimony, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And secondly, I'm going to need the doctor that examined the kid. Ukuthi utholeni emhlanganisa nawe and all that. And then he then says, for now, I'm going to grant you bail again. because sakunikeza bail and wangabaleka wa-attenda kahle. So sokunikeza bail, ama conditions we bail ukuthi every time you have to come to court, you come. Secondly, every Monday and Thursday we will report the police station eseduze nasekhaya. Manje they then gave me bail for 5,000 bathamba ekhaya.
Sure.
Nalaba sekhaya balana abanayo ne-5,000 bacishe bathengisa amafoni eDelmas bafuna ukungibhayila.
Sure.
Kahle kahle beze ngengqondo ethi namhlanje sihamba naye. So ngoba bebanganayo imali at hand at the time, I ngibuyele kuma holding cells ngene evenini ngibuyele eModapi.
Sure.
One of my friends who was there, uPhindi wakasithole, and calls a friend of hers uMdu osebenza SAA athi Mdu yazi sibuye case nekabheki ubheki bamnikeza ibail 5,000 and asinayo. Can you help? You won't believe what happened. UMdu drove from Kempton Park airport, came through to Modapi prison to come and bail me.
Sure.
Mangisahleli lapha reception
And ngaleso sikhathi 5,000
mahlangu bail board bheki mahlangu bail board ngishone kule office le lama bail nani mangiya ngithola samumane besinayo ecollege athi awubheki kanti useselana ngithi ngiseselana athi uyamazi lo muntu ezokhipha ibail ngithi ngiyayibheka le yansizwa ngaphandle kwefastera ngithi angimazi nokumazi lo muntu lapha angimazi. So he had come to bail me out.
Sure.
He then paid the 5,000. We were meeting for the first time, Nomdu. He drove me home. They were so excited.
So 5,000 bekuyimali in 2003.
2003, can you imagine 5,000?
Sure. Yeah.
So that is how I then get out. Attend a case until the 10th of August. 10th of August.
So kuyo yonke lento le you don't have contact nalengani, no information ukuthi izifike lana ifike khona yini.
Kahle angithi manje nenkantolo ayikuvumeli lokho ukuthi you are not supposed to contact ama witnesses whatever. It's one of the conditions the court. Yabo njai. So bengaba contact.
Yeah.
Bengaba contact at all. And then August, this is now 2004. Nge-10 zaka-August yaphela nge-10 zaka-August case. And ngihamba nosibalo wami uDavid Lwazi Nkabinde, and he has since passed on. May his soul rest in peace. Naye who was a big assistance to me because mangiphuma ngebail ifamily had decided ukuthi indlu yaseDavidton bayirentise. Sangiseka ngithi ngihlelo 8 months, I mean ngeke ihlale nganamuntu. So then I go back home and ngiyabhayiziseka ke manje yosoma at that time asahlala extension 8 ku 2 room yabo extension 8, so ngithi ngizomphathisa ikhanda naye manje ohlala naye lapha yabo. So my sister uGrace Nkabinde she told me vela says azongibona eModapi wathi mawuphuma lana uyohlala nami. So she took me in, so ngahlala naye nefamily yakhe and her kids. And Ubongi had passed on, Untombu Nonhlanhla, Ugugu, Phumla, Umuzi, and the husband. And then there was Uzinhle, Umzukulu. You know, we stayed wonderfully with them. We stayed wonderfully. So that was that. And then, so Samanayeku, Babu Nkabinde, siya High Court at Delmas.
Yeah.
And each actually te uzagokugcina namhlanje. So on our way there, I then decided to ask my advocate, but how long have you been doing this? In mind, I'm fully satisfied. He then says to me, I started a court as a clerk of the court. And over the years, ngaba a prosecutor, ngaba a magistrate, vele uJachenk of Mani Springs by Mazbeka Kwebagabi.
Sure.
Ngaba a magistrate and what. So now he's now an advocate. So his answer, yanginikeza ukuthula ukuthi why at least lo muntu engihamba naye ngamethemba indoda engingayethemba. We went through, when we got there, angithi manje abasabiza ama witnesses. babheka i-case record le yaseBenoni ukuthi ubani wathi
no magistrate ugcina afikile lo waseBenoni
no akafikanga makafika ijudge yathi magistrate bathi hayi magistrate uthe yena ngiyakazesa so whatever decision he has made there he stands by it. Okay, good. A judge then says something that's very interesting that interested me a lot. It reassured me ukuthi at least usekhona umthetho South Africa.
Yeah.
He says mina mangifunde record case record I could tell ukuthi the defendant is an not innocent, an honest person. A prosecutor, why would you say that? Because when he was asked ukuthi umntwana why umntwana sukela yena kubo bonke othisha bakhona esikoleni, all he said was he doesn't know. And for me that's an honest answer. Mawungazawazi. And he could have said mhlawumbe uyangizonda, mhlawumbe une grudge, yabo,
just in terms of discredita loyo
yabo, mhlawumbe umntwana bamthengile, yabo, and all those things, but he just said akazi. And mawungazawazi. And for actually to this very day now mawungangibuza angazi, I don't know why the child picked on me. I don't know. So that's that. And then the judge then says, after deliberations between him, the advocate, the prosecutor, he then says, Mina, I would rather I send a guilty person to prison than to subject an innocent person 2 years of imprisonment.
Sure.
And having said that, Mr. Mahlangu, bebangicela ukuthi ngizo-upholda i-conviction or ngiyisethe aside. So I'm setting it aside. You're not guilty. Hambe ekhaya.
Sure, kanjalo nje.
2004. And a weight lifted off my shoulder. Went out, hugged my advocate, hugged my mother, my friends. I was in tears.
Sure.
I was in tears. And ngahamba ngaya ekhaya. Wayesekuphelile. And I needed to start from scratch and build my life again.
And unangaki lapho?
I was 26 when this happened. And I was 26, yeah, singilapho go 26, 27, and all that. So can you imagine? Maybe uyoqalela phansi and try to build a life.
Yeah.
And sadly and unfortunately, our communities, I said in the book, there's a part where I say I've got news for you. So I was addressing a social worker. Because when my lawyer, uBenindaba, asked her, ukuthi umntana makafika athi bawurejiwe and all that, did you try to ascertain, ask questions ukuthi uthole ukuthi uqinisile yini umntwana? She then said, no, umthetho awumvumeli to interrogate the child. But I'm saying mina ngo-standard 2 wami kunomehluko phakathi ku-interrogate umuntu noku-wanting to ascertain the facts.
Yeah.
And I'm saying I'm disappointed in her. It's fortunate ukuthi abantu baseThwathwa did not take this thing as gospel truth, the report yakhe as gospel truth. If they had taken it as gospel truth, bangifaka ichaya, bangishisa.
Sure.
Bese kuyatholakala a few years later ukuthi hayi bengayenzanga lo muntu lo nto leyo. How do you then correct that?
Sure.
How do you then correct that? So, but ngiyabonga uNkulunkulu kakhulu who was with me through and through, my family, my mother, my friends. I said in the book ukuthi I realized only too late ukuthi every place I've been to, so has she. Because umama mawuye enkantolo nanoma engekho physically, but uyakhala, uyathandaza, wenzani, you know. So that's that, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful to my friends, and kunale verse laga Mose and Moses when Egypt was fighting, ama leg.
uNkulunkulu
athi phakamisa izandla, mawuphakamisa izandla and uIsrael uyanqoba, izandla mazehla uIsrael uyanqotshwa. So ngikhuluma ngabo ukuthi bona they served as uAaron noHur, abaphakamisa izandla zami. Uma ngabe ngibonakala ngathi ngiyakhathala, izandla ziyawa, and family and friends would pick my hands up.
Sure. So into engifuna ukuyiqonda mhlambe before siqala ku how you rebuild ilokho njani impilo yakho, ukuthi sokwenzekile konke, ngithi mina mangibheka personal, kune zondo, khona ukwata phakathi, khona obu revenge ukuthi lo muntu ongenze lokho ngenzanga lutho. What form of law umthetho ngawuthatha ukuthi nami ngiphindiselele or press ama charges nani. So ngifuna ukwazi mase kufika lapho bowukuphi wena boso uthi no right la lento mayindlule. Ngifuna ukufaka impilo like
angithi manje more than anything uma sengiqalela impilo mhlawumbe ithi ngiqale la ekuthenini somehow I felt it doesn't matter what steps I can take to right the situation. My name has been spoiled already. I'll tell you an example. One of the schools that I applied to, the story we were talking about earlier on, and the stigma, this is what people need to learn. Accusing people of things that they did not do, it's very bad. Because nobody comes back and say siyaxolisa and take back the years you have lost and whatever. And when I wrote back to the Department of Education, they then said, after all, my contract was a temporary contract, very pelling of September, at the start of my case. And I went to some school, bang invited for an interview with Springs, and it did not end well because people were saying they know of my case but abantwana babo, they are not safe with me around and whatever and all those things. With all those things, I realized in 2012 we had a conference. I think what kept me sane more than anything is more than anything, and giving myself off to umsebenzi we-youth, umsebenzi wani, that kept me sane. But more than anything, in 2005 then, April, I then get a job in the Department of Water Affairs and Forestry in KZN in Bergville. And I think more than anything that helped me, it helped me because lapha yakulesa sikole la engabhayiziseka khona uprincipal wakhona wathi makanga-advise wathi mina I would advise you to start applying outside of Gauteng. And that advice made a lot of sense. When I went to KZN, I embraced that advice. Some friends of mine recommended uzama waMatondo noHlengiwe waMatondo bebasebenza ka Water Affairs. So uHlengiwe wasebenza eBergville, uzama sebenza eErmelo. So they took my CV and ka Water Affairs base bangibiza ngayoba yi-admin clerk, senior administration clerk, ngisebenza reception. And being there, I started a process of healing. I started a process of healing away from everything else that reminds me of my pain. I then started a process of healing and made other friends and friendships and whatever.
So the process yakho yokuheala entailani? You ukhuluma nabantu or khona counseling ukuthi how do you start nje practical nje masikhuluma?
I think enye into eyangisiza, I sat in front of a computer. I started writing. There's a book I worked on at the time. Title yakhona beyithi spare me a few days and update to my father. What I was doing, because njengoba ngishilo ukuthi baba washona ngo-1980, I I was telling him what has been happening in my life all along. Ngikhuluma as if uhleli la.
Yeah.
So when it came to that episode, AAK Sinanani, it served as therapy. It served as speaking out, taking out my anger, we computer, and I wrote. Most of the things as economy are things that I wrote then in 2006. But now fast forward to 2012. In 2012, we then have a conference in Davidson. Iskole esilala kuso silala esikoleni. And because isonto lethu seduze kwasesikoleni isikole esilala kuso ilese bengisebenza kuso WJ Mpengisi. So umntwana stays around that area. And then on Friday when I arrived there, I take this brother of mine uSizwe wakambatha ngithi Sizwe angiphelezele man khona abantwana engangibafundisa la ngifuna ukubabona. Go through 2 kabokhanyisile Mtambo. Ukhanyisile I taught a grade 4, 5, 6, 7. You won't believe this. And while I taught a grade 4, this one time, this one time Ukhanyisile tells another friend of hers abayenza nayo grade 4 ukuthi mina ekhaya ngiyobacela ngeweekend ukuthi ngicela ukuvakashela uSeya. And they came through. She called me daddy. To this very day, she called me daddy.
Yeah.
Daddy. Now, can you imagine a child at grade 4 and Umankulu wouldn't believe when they came a weekend. What's the weekend?
Sure.
And Mamkula lale nabo ngale abenzela ukudla yenzene ngithi kodwa amadoda ikhona indawo yokuthi, but that is what teaching does to you. I mean abantu they don't actually realize that these kids become practically our kids.
Yeah.
That is how they look at us. I mean, I don't know how many kids have I been with kunabanye ngibafundise KZN so amadoda manje bayasebenza and all that mangibafonela ama esikhulume yabona ukuthi abafowethu lapha, and that is how they grow. That is how they grow. And so ngithi uSizwe ke asambe siyobabona, asambe siyakabokhanyisela ajabule hayi wenzani ngithi ngize for a revival conference and whatever.
Yeah.
Then as we walked around ngithi uSizwe, there's a kid I'd like to see. And the kid that accused me of rape, I'd really love to see her. Athi uyothini kuye ngempela ngithi hayi ngiyazi mina ukuthi ngiyothini.
Sure.
So as we walked up, I see 3 other kids bakhuphuka bathi bayongena kube ejardini. Ngithi hayi uye lo yaya. I followed them, sangena sinosizwe sangena endlini. Ngafika ngikokode and bese ngiyamcela. She couldn't believe it. This is now 10 years later. Ngithi uye izanesitulo hlalela ngaphandle, ezanesitulo hlale ngaphandle. Ngithi uSizwe ithi ngizokulandela khona manje.
Yeah.
I then say to her, you know, ngiyacabanga bokucabanga ukuthi la engikhona ngiyakuzonda, angifuni ukukubona and but I've actually come to tell you ukuthi I've forgiven you.
Sure.
You caused me a lot of pain. Case ongivulela yona yacishe yaqeda impilo yami. But it's now in the past and I've forgiven you. And realizing ukuthi uzofuna ukufaka ama excuse ayenze ngathi angeke ngibuze nokumbuza ukuthi wena bocabangani.
Sure.
I then said in my heart, start another discussion. What, how far are you kodwa wena wenzani mawuqeda grade 12 wenzani hayi ngathola umntwana ngabhayiseka and whatever. Hayi ungena abanye abantu abangani bakhe labehamba nabo ngithi nomsana upapa ningibakhumbula namagama ngingasho manje ngibakhumbula nama how wena how kanti uwe lona ngithi mina ngibhizi ngikhuluma no principal ukuthi ngiyabuya ngizofundisa la bathi hayi ubuye uzofundisa abantwana bethu. Mina ngizofundisa nina ingane bese ngiphinde ngifundise neingane zenu. Bathi hayi ngishawufuna ukukhula wena, ngishawufuna ukukhula nana.
Yeah.
And I left it there, but
sure.
To answer your question therefore, Anne, I learned to forgive. I learned to forgive the past. And I'll tell you now, that helped me a lot. Ukube azange ngithathe isinqumo sokuxolela. Kube namhlanje ngisahleli ekuthenini ningibona nginje ingenxa kabani. Yeah, ningibona nginje ingenxa kabani nani. And there is nothing that is as dangerous. I said that in the book. There is nothing that is as dangerous to the heart of the unforgiving person.
Yeah.
More than the heart of the unforgiving person.
Sure.
Inhliziyo yakubambezela ukuthi ubani ngabaxolela bonke hayi usibanibani. And uNkulunkulu emuhle ngadlula lapha. I was able to start again and pick my life up. Friends and family supporting me, and I'm where I am today because of their prayers, because of the support they afforded me.
Yeah.
I'm where I am because of the prayers that my wife makes. So sizokhuluma nangayo.
Yeah.
Bless me with a beautiful wife. And I'm where I am, and ngibona impilo yami ikhulu indlondlobala only because I decided. I mean, it could have gone either way. I could have decided, you know what, I'm holding on to the grudge.
Yeah.
But I'm happy I did not. One of my favorite poems, The Road Not Taken. The Road Not Taken. And it's one of my favorite poems.
Yeah.
And the writer says, somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a yellow wood. And I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
Sure.
And nami ngiyabonga ukuthi I took the one less traveled by. Abantu abaxolile. Abantu bayakwazi ukuhlala ne-grudge impilo yabo yonke.
Yeah.
Umuntu umbona phela wona endana bose ngaxolelanga.
Yeah.
iBhayibheli elithi sim-expecta kanjani uThixo ukuthi asithethelele thina singabathethelele nabanye.
Yeah. Sure. Yo, powerful lento. Mhlambe before sifika ku journey yakho nonkosikazi wakho. Ngifuna ukubuza this one question, right? Because I've also had a friend who was accused of that. Kodwa zange la afika ecourt ngoba usisi washintsha istory. Adropa ama charges ngoba bengasiqiniso. But naye akazange athatha any legal action against it because I think that le packet for thing experience ile kusaqala itrial nani angifuni ngifuna ukuyikhohlwa lento le. So ngifuna ukwazi mhlambe ukuthi mhlambe lokho ukuxolela ngoba into engibonayo nakule show besakhuluma nama producers ukuthi kuba nzima ukuthola abantu abayinsizwa rabo baba bazokhuluma even na after divorce because men just don't talk. Yebo kuba kakhulu abantu besifazana benza lokho. Ukuthi mhlambe ama action mhlawumbe abantu aba innocent njengani in a sense ukuthi abantu accusayo engezi namhlanje ningazenzile ukuthi ni thathe wathi isikhathi samanje but to shame those people or thathe any legal action against them babona ama consequences zezinto zabe awucabanga mhlawumbe ukuthi kwenza ukuthi kube lula kwabanye abantu not ukusaying ukuthi kakhulu abantu abamamela ukuthi asithathe serious izinto where abantu besifazana are raped in the country but in instances where njenge case yakho but maso undlulile lapho what I've realized most men yabo njengobusho uzoxolela angafuni futhi nokuzi associate naleyo lokho njana and then lo muntu okuaccused as much as uzo go through whatever go through life yakho but when I direct didn't take any legal action against them so ngifuna ukwazi do you think lokho kuba nomthelela mhlambe ukuthi abantu angasaba umuntu angakwazi nokukwazi abe nesibindi sokuthi uye wamrape?
Hey, I think so, but I'll tell you my take on the whole thing. I mean, with me it was a little different in that uma sengihleli eKZN ane I then said to myself, I asked myself a very important question. Ngathi I had been very angry at the child, at her mother, and whoever was involved in this whole fiasco. But I then stopped to ask myself, Uti, but what if the child was actually raped? It's just that I
Sure.
I'll tell you why I arrived at that conclusion. When my case ended, I won't say names, ne? When my case ended, my former principal invited me back to school for a farewell party of sorts, a welcome back party and whatever.
Yeah.
Now, after that welcome back party, I got calls from some of my friends, but speaks in. Yazi sithi sifone ithi ufonele ngitshela ukuthi siyajabula mawuza lapha esikoleni, but we want you to know ukuthi akusithi sonke sijabula emasibona. Ngithi mina vela wangisimala ngithanda yomuntu. And then they then say, after bakwenze welcome back party, there's apparently one of the members of staff who approached the other deputy principal and then said, yena akajabulanga ngendlela bahandle case yami ngayo ngoba khona manje bayangwelcome in yena uyazi ukuthi mina ngayenza lento unofakazi. I-deputy principal ihambe ku-principal emtshela manje ku-principal wami former principal bengachithi isikhathi wavela wabiza staff meeting wafika wabatshela wathi angithi nakhumbula icase yakabheki mayiqala amaphoyisa athi abanobufakazi mabeze bazofakaza ukhona owafakaza lapha phakathi kwenu bathi cha minera akekho wafakaza athi mineri ngaphandle kwanokuzola waze waye court wayofakazela uBheki bakhona abanye abafakazi bathi bambonile noma bayenzeni wathi hayi abekho wathi icase yakabheki seyiphelile manje suddenly kunabantu who have recovered from partial amnesia sebakhumbula ukuthi uBheki wayenza lento le bathi awuminera bobani labo athi angeke ngisho amagama abantu kodwa bakhona la.
Yeah.
Another guy who was passed on wakankosi uAce aphakama athi hayi mina ngiyabazi futhi ngabasho.
Sure.
Umenera athi hayi ungakhuluma amagama abantu. So sadly and unfortunately when the meeting ended, so these friends of mine approach uAce waphuthuza amagama. One of those people I realized sengihleli ngedwa ukuthi yakubona ngithi ngisebenzisa isibongo sakaMahlanga ngithi salama. So he was using the Mahlanga surname watshintsha naye. So at the time of the case bekasebenzisa isibongo sakaMahlanga. This is a theory I'm pushing there. I'm not accusing him or anything like that, but I'm saying could it be that that guy othi yena uyazi ukuthi ngayenza uzama ukuthi mina ngifela amacala wakhe.
Sure.
Mhlawumbe ingane yafika yathi Mr. Mahlangu and i-social worker yacabanga ukuthi Mr. Mahlangu esikoleni kumele kube uthisha. Ngoshwa nje ngoshela umuntu engamazi. Now the reason why therefore I'm bringing that up in relation to the question you are asking, I then sat and said to myself, if the child was raped by any man other than me, it's unacceptable. Sikhulisa ingane sineyingane sizele, and it cannot be right. uThumandela mayikhuluma namanye amadoda eBurundi athi you men make me ashamed to be an African. And personally that is what I'm saying in the book, to say it cannot be right noma ngabe kungemina kuwo umunye onrepile. It cannot be right. So I then said to myself, angazi noma warejwa noma zangarejwa mhlawumbe bekayiqambela mangumntwana, but what if urejiwe? And that is why therefore I took a direction ethi maybe this friend of yours nami I share my sentiments wakhe. One of the reasons why I did not sue or anything like that, ngase ngikhathele mfoka mtshali ubuye court, been there for 26 months.
Sure.
So ngase ngikhathele nginganamali ngiyiqakekele ngithi yazi ngifuna uqala impilo yami kabusha. But more than that, in the book, I'm also taking an angle ethi we should be ashamed as men. Abantwana bethu balinyazwa yethu Cyril Ramaphosa, my current president, he says these rapists, these people who are abusing women and children, abantu esibaziyo, abantu esihlala nabo. And uBhekile uke wathi attend khona ngeadvert yakhe bebayidlala kakhulu ngale case le mhlawumbe yayazi nawo nje. Athi ngicela ubona izandla zamantombazana aqoma igebengu la. Akho umuntu owaphakamisa isandla. Athi ngicela ubona izandla zomama abazela igebengu. Wena akho umuntu owaphakamisa isandla. Athi amantombazana aqoma igebengu nomama abazela igebengu. Umama nomama wathatha isigebengu sakhe asilethe police station. Uma ngasilethi ngizosibopha.
Yeah.
But the point of the whole thing, therefore, I'm raising it in the book, therefore, to say no hands went up. And no hands will go up for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Because now we are 6 societies that protect abantu abaxhaphaza izingane zethu, abantu abaxhaphaza amakhosazi wethu nodadewethu noma bethu, all that. We're a society, siyazi kuma societies esiphila ku ukuthi ubani has never worked a single day.
Yeah.
Kodwa is walking around, driving around with beautiful cars and all. We don't report that. Manje sengithi mina, it can't be that in that entire Echwachwa area akukho noyedwa umuntu owazi ukuthi le ngane yarejwa ubani.
Yeah.
But people are quiet about it.
Sure.
And that is wrong.
Yeah.
And that is very wrong. So nithatha an angle ethi. That is why even in the book I don't mention the child's name.
Yeah.
I don't. I had changed her name to protect her identity from the anger that is going to be maybe generated from just reading the book. There's already people who are reading the book and say, hey, there's a in and whatever. And other people will then direct their anger towards her. The reason why I changed it was because of that. Because these kids need to be protected from vultures that are out there.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Sure. Like powerful.
Yes.
Powerful into qedwe and I think ukuxolela more than anything kubalekile even for you as well. Yabo njengobusho ukuthi going forward into izinto zibe lula ukuthi uqala ukubona amehlavukilisi when masosuso lo mthwalo.
Yes.
We grudge masosuso mthwalo waqala lapho ukuthi ngiyaxolela ke manje. So now sesikhulumile ngalokho oku heavy ngalokho okunzima ke sesizoyivala nje maybe just sithashe nje you mentioned a beautiful wife yakho. So asingene kuleyo journey ukuthi manje makafika empilweni yakho uyenza manje kubuye lo bukhazikhazi bempilo kubuye lo khanya yazi bathi umuntu normally you wouldn't notice environment yakho, wouldn't notice ukuthi unembali egarden yakho yube sithi ubutshani, but mase kufela uthando kusekhala umuntu hawo kanti kunembali ezinhle kanje yebo. So awusithathe through leyo journey ke yakho nokuthi lento afike nje lesikhala afika sivala nje kuwe, so experience konke lokho.
Hey, from Charlie, my wife Uthabile Wasibilwane, and a beautiful wife. I've got a beautiful wife, even if I have to say so myself. We met in church. I've known her my entire life. Umfundisi wakhe ubaba no mama Hlanya base Rachanda base Heidelberg. So umthetho wasebandleni lakithi ke Nkonze Maranatha Ministries, like I said, the head office here to say Newcastle. So umthetho wasebandleni lakithi ukuthi mangabe so ubona ukuthi usumdala usofike estage la ungathatha khona unkosikazi, awuyi kuye lo muntu ombonayo intombi nanoma uyibonile kodwa uqondi kuye and uya kumfundisi. Umfundisi ayi kumfundisi wayo banihlanganise nixoxe indaba bese uma nivumelana bese sinalungisa ke wonke lama processes omshado and all that. So like I say, I've known her my entire life and all that. And so 2015 I decided to resign education eKZN ngithi ngibuye ekhaya yabona. So one of the decisions I had taken ukuthi sengimdala ngifuna ukugana and futhi sengiyamazi umuntu engimthandayo engifisa ukuthi abe unkosikazi wami. So this one conference in Khasmir, one of our branches, I then approached Bhekile, one of our pastors in our church. Kahle bekumele ngabe ngapproach umfundisi wami, umfundisi uRansi wasethema. Now bekangekho kulowo mhlangano loyo. So ngimfonele ngithi mfundisi bengifuna ungihlanganise nobaba Mahlane ngihlanganise no kodadewethu engifisa ukuthi abe unkosikazi wami. Ajabula umfundisi uRansi ngathi no akunankinga khuluma nobaba Bhekile ngoba ukhona lapho. Kube yibo abanihlanganisayo. Now i-conference ngithi Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So nami ngikhuluma naye Saturday and uHlayile vele naye ayijabulele na ngoba vele bona dala babangani bami nebona sebaganiwe. Iyahlupha indaba abangani. Bona sebaganiwe and yabona kodwa ke okumnandi. Now fortunately angazi uNkulunkulu wangibusisa nje ngabanye abangani and who have my back. I mean, they've had my back forever. And umchosi Zwane nonkosikazi wakho uNtapseng Zwane, they are worth mentioning, and they're like family. They're like family. Ekuphayizisekeni kwami wherever when I pick up my phone ngithi ngifonela umchosi Zwane, and it doesn't matter where he is, he will make a plan. He will make a plan. So, and I was saying therefore engikuthandayo ngabo ukuthi and many other friends of mine, they never really reminded me ukuthi awundoda kanti ukanwa nini ndoda, shada phela ndoda isikhathi sahamba, nasi isikhathi sahamba ndoda, nyakaza ndoda and all that. You do find other people esontweni abadala, omama abadala nobaba abadala bathi hayi boBheki na iminyaka ihamba bapha abazukulu kanti na and all those things. So fortunately I was never really exposed to those kinds of friends. So I had taken a conscious decision, you know what, sengifuna ukugana manje. So ubaba Bhekile ke nobaba Mahlane base bahlanganisa ke eKhasmiri and sahlangana emzini wamfundisi wakhona umfundisi uThwala uGokthwala nje, a wonderful woman, and so sase siyakhuluma ke. Siyakhuluma, she couldn't believe it uThabile. Angisho manje uma bathi khona insizwe efuna ukukubona naye akazi ukuthi it could have been anybody else.
Mara niyazana nje niyakhuluma.
Yes, siyaxoxa nyana yabona nani, but akazi ukuthi hayi lo ungifihlela induku emqubeni. So when I walk in there, wena hayi sixoxe ke sizama ukuhlanganisa udaba lethu athi hayi ucela ukuthi she goes and prays about it, and then she will then let me know. I know, not a problem. And vele nama ngisho ngalithatha isikhathi sokuthi ngiyokhuleka ngibuza uNkulunkulu and she then says okay, a few months later we then meet up. She says no, Zim George. Yeah. And then we then started the process eyo mshado ebandleni lakithi ke iqala ngokuthi niyophakanyiswa ebandleni. Most important iqala masolobolile bese bayo announce ebandleni, and this process ke yo sibiza ngokuthi kushisa upelepele ukuthi bayo announce ebandleni ukuthi hayi nina senivumelene ukuthi niyoshada nanani. So besithanda kakhulu ngoba ibiyenziwa ubaba Dr. SM Ntombela. You know, he would facilitate it at national level. So this time around he facilitated it at provincial level since Heidelberg. You know, it was, we were so excited, and then announced it and ukuthi laba bathembisana umshado, and then we then started that process ke yokuplana and salobola, and then 2018 then got married. Got married, and more than anything, what you were talking about ngendaba yembali, kunomunye umfundisi ubeshu umngani wami uNthokoziswane, and oyo wathi mayekhuluma ngelinye ilanga in one of the conference services we had in Tsakane ebandleni lakamfundisi Zwane, abonga umamzwane athi uyabona ama lights lawo gesi avela khanye la, nibone ubuhle bawo, nibone nokuthi ayakhanyisa indlu nani, kodwa aniyiboni le intambo ezihamba emapayipini ezilethu ukukhanya nani. Athi umamfundisi ufana nalezo intambo lezi ezisemapayipini ezilethu ukukhanya and all that. And I believe my wife is like that. Abantu bangibona manje babona insizwanyana ekhanyanyana and they don't know the work that she does behind closed doors and all that. And people appreciate the fact that I've published 2 books now. Yeah. I'm working on my 3rd book and all that, and they think it's magic. But it's because of the support that she affords me. It's because of the love that she affords me. It's because of she's my number one fan. Yeah. You know what I usually do when I write my books, I send her the copy, and please read through it and tell me what you think. And like I say, she's my number one supporter. And more than anything, we crack jokes, we laugh at each other. Whenever she had jokes from WhatsApp, and she just makes me a better man. She brings out the best in me. And but above everything else, uyamthanda futhi uyamsaba uNkulunkulu. Because more than anything, I realized I've been a Christian all my life, you know, and I'm happy that I married someone ongathi mangabe sesixakekile athi angisho ukuthi ku-wrong, abakwenzayo bayakwenza ku-right. But I married someone othi mangabe sesixakekile athi let's kneel down and pray. Yeah. Let's pray about it. More than anything, that is what I appreciate. Mhlambe bekuyoba right ukube ngithathe umuntu ofuna sijikele ngale kumfokadla ngamandla, kanti nami vele ngijwayele ukujikela ngale kumfokadla ngamandla, ngoba iyahlupha nalento emshadweni yokuthi nithi nihlangene kodwa nibe niprefer into engafani. Omunye athi lenkinga sizingayisolva ngokuya lapha, omunye athi singayisolva manje. The fact that when we then have problems, our solutions wathola endaweni eyodwa. And more than anything, to me, that it just makes me the happiest man alive.
Yeah. So when she learned about that part of your past, ukuthi why you receive kanjani, or ngoba vele benazana before beseka aware?
No, she wasn't. Unfortunately, she wasn't aware. She wasn't aware. There were people who were close to me and friends and whatever, and she wasn't aware. Yeah. When she learned of it, she cried. She cried, and I, sometimes she would struggle with me opting to forgive her, to forgive the child. But with time, she understood my thinking. You know what? We can be angry all we can, and how do we expect God to forgive us when we don't forgive those abasihlupayo, and all that? And I'm happy that she came on board, and siyakhula manje as a family. And I'm happy ukuthi looking back, if I had decided not to forgive, I don't think I would be where I am now, spiritually, emotionally, and otherwise. Yes. Yeah. And she then supports that vision more than anything. She supports that vision, and I appreciate her for that. Yeah. Yes.
Makazi just ukuthi azi ukuthi there's nothing wrong with her. Yabona la beka khona. Ngiyacabanga maningi ama-view abukene nawe kuleyo place. Njengoba nami kulento lokuthi wayiyeka waxolela kanjalo so angathuki nje sonke sinalento le I think abaningi abantu abenza istory kuba nale not necessarily inzondo but injustice ekufikela ukuthi you shouldn't have went through that. And those people abafake leyo position they should pay. So ngiyacabanga ku natural for people to feel like that.
Yes,
but manje ngifuna ukwazi ke sesigoqa ukuthi wena ezubheke igama le show it's what keeps you going with them child. So la ukhona manje inje ekukhipha nje unomuntu despite into ondlule kuzo yini le kwenza ukuthi ngoba maningi nama project ongitshele ngawo obusy ngawo at the moment yini le keep ukuthi going nje.
What keeps me going more than anything, you remember earlier on when I said our kids should know that they're worth it. From my experience, angithi manje yahlupha indaba yokuthi izimo azisuffecting ngokufana sabantu. I realize ukuthi omunye umuntu ukube udlule kulesimo engidlule kuso mhlambe ngabe manje akafuni anything to do with teaching, with working with kids and all that, but I realized ukuthi kune phrase ethi don't let them change you. And I realized ukuthi nami lesimo could have changed me. And I wrote lapha encwadini ukuthi there's kids that I taught in KZN 2008 to 2012. There's kids I taught at Belleville Primary 2013 to 2015. And I'm writing their names there. I'm saying this whole situation happened way before I could meet with them. And I appreciate the fact that uThixo wangidlulisa kuyo and it didn't change me. Because if it had changed me, ngaba ngikho la ngikhona, ngabe azange ngihlangane nabo and all that, ngaba azange ngicontributed the little that I can in their lives in particular. And more than anything, therefore, what drives me is I want to see the black child realizing that they are worth it. And what drives me more than anything, again, it's the fact that if ngangikule simo enganguso ngo-2003 and God was able to hold my hand and navigate me to where I am now, I believe him for greater things to come. Lo osekugcineni uthi namhla Nkosi ngiyamangala uma ngibheke emuva ukube wena wawungenami ngabe ngafela endleleni. So that's basically it. Now I want to say to someone who's listening out there, wherever you are in life, uzophela. This is one of the favorite songs that I love. Sasihlabelela in prison. I mean, you won't believe this. Sasihlabelela in prison with umfundisi uKhanyile, so washona naye bekaboshiwe and owase KZN. We met in prison. A wonderful man of God. So mina bengihlala B12 yena ahlala B10. So besime emafastereni every evening sihlabelele leyo ngoma leyo ethi uNkulunkulu uthando lwakho kithi nabantu lukhulu sangena lapho kuthiwa ongene khona ngeke aphuma. Now and then say namhla Nkosi siyamangala uma sibheke emuva ukuba wena ubungenathi ngabe safela endleleni. So ngicina uma ngabe ungenile uzophuma. Thembekile uThixo. Mangabe ungenile esimweni, doesn't matter how difficult it is, but uzophuma. Ungamlathi uThixo, ungamthuki uThixo, hold on to him. Uma ungenile uzophuma.
Azikube kuyakhonakala ngabe ngithi sishaya lo culo manje mina ngisayona ngizosuke siphakame kabushuni.
Sishayisane khona.
Uzomulahleke la usho. But sesibeyicela utshele nje ama viewers ethu abukele naye incwadi ke bafethu yena
Ngiyathemba ukuthi le ncwadi yami sine director yethu la ihlala injontshela ama copy la. Futhi umuntu ashiya incwadi hayi nyamalala. Le kodwa ngilena yami ke le ngiyathemba ukuthi angeke nje awenze lo mkhuba wakhe. Cela utshela nje ababukeli igama lencwadi nokuthi itholakala kuphi. Nama number akho ke la banga contact khona abafuna incwadi.
Okay. Incwadi it's lurking behind shadows. And it's about my life story. The story is esiqedwe usixoxa nomfoka Mtshali, and iyatholakala, it's self-published, so iyatholakala. If you need a copy, you give me a call on 078 205 9349. 078-205-9349. You can also drop me a WhatsApp, and ngikhona na ku Facebook uBhekile Nkosi, and hey lezo Twitter na hey zisangikhula kancane kodwa ngizongena nakhona nalapho ngiyaya. And yeah, you can soma drop a WhatsApp or send me an inbox on Facebook, but iyatholakala. It's a wonderful book, even if I have to say so myself. And the copies are available, and just give me a call or drop me a WhatsApp. Yes.
Then sirepha kanjalo siyabonga bafethu ninenimamele kwaze kwafika la. Ungakhohlwa ke nokumlandela ku Facebook, ungakhohlwa ukusubscribe ke. Bhekile mfethu siyabonga ukuthi ufike uzosikhulisa njengepresent yakho.
Siyabonga kakhulu bhuti. Thank you so much. Hey.